When veterans raised their right hand, joined the military, did they also sign up to be experimented on, silenced, or forgotten?
I'm Dr. Sharma, physician, board-certified psychiatrist, and Air Force veteran. A few videos back, I received this comment on the channel. It says, "Vets got it easy as hell. Free food, free housing, and they still cry about doing things they signed up for." And while I recognize this comment was a troll comment, it brought up a significant topic in my mind. When we signed on that dotted line, we signed up for a lot of things: to serve our country, sacrifice for our country, and fight for our country, and more. But does that mean that we shouldn't complain when injustices are done to us? This comment implies that we signed up for anything and everything. But the reality is that the contract we signed goes both ways. The government also has a responsibility towards us. So, in response to this comment and others like it, I'm going to ask a series of questions. Questions about history and what has been done to service members and veterans and whether or not they asked for it. First, in 1932, during the Great Depression, did veterans ask to be denied a bonus promised to them since World War I? When they marched in the streets to demand their bonus, instead of being met with a negotiator, did they ask to be met with by rifle and bayonet-wielding army troops led by General Douglas MacArthur? Did they ask to be violently dispersed by cavalry charges, tanks, and tear gas? Did they ask for their camps to be burned to the ground? Did they ask for 1,000 veterans to be assaulted by the troops and 2 actually shot dead? As one of the newspapers said at the time, if the army must be called out to make war on unarmed citizens, this is no longer America. During World War II, did military servicemen ask to be used as guinea pigs in chemical weapons research? Did they ask for 60,000 American troops to be enrolled in secret experiments to test mustard gas and other chemical agents? Did they ask to be deliberately exposed to sulfur mustard, lewisite, in gas chambers and in the field without protective equipment? Did the African American and Puerto Rican soldiers ask to be targeted specifically to see if, quote, darker skin offered more resistance to mustard gas? Did Japanese American soldiers ask to be subjected to the same tests because they were deemed to be proxies for the enemy? Did all of these men ask to suffer from severe chemical burns, lung injuries, and to be sworn to secrecy and receive no medical treatment? When the VA promised in 1991 to compensate affected World War II mustard gas test survivors, did they ask to be ignored? And decades later, many still struggle to get their claims honored. All of these troops did exactly as they were ordered, but the government failed to recognize or support them for the harms that it caused. In the early Cold War era, did tens of thousands of U.S. service members ask to be unknowingly exposed to ionizing radiation during nuclear weapons tests? Did they ask to be a part of 200 above-ground nuclear weapons tests, where they were positioned at various distances from ground zero, specifically in order to study the tactical feasibility of nuclear battle? Did 400,000 of these American military personnel ask to be a part of these tests or stationed near nuclear test detonations? Did they ask to be placed close to the ground zero site without even minimal protective gear? Did they ask to be told to just cover their eyes and faces before the blast and that was enough? After these exposures, did they ask to be sworn to secrecy under threat of court-martial, prison time, and heavy fines? In the years and decades that followed, did they ask to be struck with multiple cancers, leukemia, cataracts, and other radiation-linked illnesses? Did they ask for their government to refuse to acknowledge the connections between the ionizing radiation and these health problems? When many of these quote-unquote atomic veterans filed claims for the service connections, did they ask to be told that their records were classified or that radiation didn't really cause their medical conditions? As one veteran from that era noted, quote, "For 10 years, I've been trying to get compensation, but the government does not want to admit that anybody was harmed by any radiation." It wasn't until 1994 when they were officially released from their secrecy oaths. From the 1950s to the 1970s, did U.S. military personnel ask to be subjected to an array of tests where they were exposed to multiple chemicals at Edgewood Arsenal in Maryland? Did they ask for the U.S. Army Chemical Corps, in partnership with other agencies, including the CIA, to experiment on them? Did 6,700 soldiers sign up for these experiments when they were initially told that it was just to test defensive equipment and that it was light duty? Did they ask to be exposed to over 250 different chemicals, including chemical warfare agents like VX, sarin gas, mustard gas, nerve agents, hallucinogens like LSD, BZ, and other riot control gases? Did they ask to be left in the dark about what kind of experiments they were really participating in? Did they ask to be given symptoms like hallucinations, paralysis, and even seizures? When these medical issues came about, did they ask to be denied long-term medical follow-up? Did they ask for these experiments to keep going for 25 years until it was halted in 1975 due to their unethical practices? When the same veterans from Edgewood reported cancer, nerve damage, PTSD, and other conditions, did they ask to be denied medical coverage? Did they ask to have their secrecy oaths reminded to them, forbidding them from even speaking to their physicians? It actually took a court ruling in 2023 to finally affirm that these veterans' constitutional rights were violated and to start granting retroactive benefits. During Project Shad in the 1960s, did U.S. Navy and Marine Corps personnel sign up to be sprayed with biological and chemical agents? Did these 5,900 Navy sailors and Marines sign up to be left in the dark about what exactly was being done to them during these tests? Did they ask to be exposed to bacteria, fluorescent tracers, infectious agents causing Q fever, sarin gas, VX, and other chemicals? Did they ask for all of this to remain hidden to them until 2000, when Project Shad was declassified? Did many of these veterans ask for their medical records to lack any mention of these tests? Did they ask to be barred from keeping documentation or speaking about it due to secrecy and the oaths that they took? Did they ask to develop respiratory issues, cancers, and other chronic illnesses? Did they ask for their own Pentagon to insist that no harm was proven and for the VA to say that there was no clear evidence of long-term health effects? Some of the sailors and Marines recall being mysteriously sprayed or even having aircraft release fog over their ships. From 1953 to 1987, did the Marines at Camp Lejeune ask to be exposed to contaminated drinking water? Did they ask for their families to be exposed to the same water? Did they ask to be exposed to perchloroethylene and trichloroethylene from dry cleaning facilities and base storage tanks with industrial chemicals that were leaking? Did they ask to be exposed to this water that had 300 to 400 times the safe limits of these toxins? Did approximately 1 million Marines, family members, and even civilian employees ask to be exposed through drinking water, bathing water, and water used in cooking? These exposures have been linked to 15 different types of cancers, including leukemia, lymphoma, and breast cancer. They've also been linked with Parkinson's disease, liver damage, kidney damage, miscarriages, stillbirths, and birth defects. Base officials actually knew about the contamination in 1982, but they didn't start closing the polluted wells until 1985, 3 years later, and they additionally failed to notify former residents until 1999. Think about that. That's 17 years after discovering the problem. 17 years where they could have been more vigilant about their health. They could have been getting more physical exams, blood testing, imaging, or other tests to make sure that they didn't have these illnesses, or potentially even catch cancers before they became severe. Many veterans and their families only became aware of this in the 2000s, and even after that, justice moved like a sloth. It took an act of Congress, literally, in 2012 to grant affected veterans VA healthcare for certain illnesses. Many claims were mishandled or denied based on technicalities. During the Vietnam War, did U.S. military personnel ask to be sprayed with chemical herbicides in the campaign known as Operation Ranch Hand? Did they ask to be sprayed with Agent Orange, which was contaminated with TCDD dioxin? Did they ask for American planes from 1962 to 1971 to spray 11 million gallons of Agent Orange across Vietnam? Did they also ask for millions of Vietnamese civilians to also be exposed to these same toxins? Did the Vietnam veterans ask to develop serious health problems from these exposures, including cancers, neurological disorders, skin diseases, and liver damage? Did they ask for their children to suffer a higher rate of birth defects? Did they ask for the VA to routinely deny their disability claims due to lack of scientific evidence linking their condition to herbicides? Did they ask to continue fighting until 1991, about 20 years after the war, when Congress passed the Agent Orange Act? During the Gulf War from 1990 to 1991, did veterans from that time ask to be struck with chronic ailments that were difficult to explain? Did they ask to develop fatigue, joint pain, memory loss, headaches, respiratory issues, digestive problems, and other symptoms? Did they ask to be struck with what's now called Gulf War syndrome or Gulf War illness? Did they ask to be viewed with skepticism when they became ill and tried to seek help? Did they ask to fight until 2008, nearly 17 years after the war, until it was finally recognized as Gulf War syndrome? Did 175,000 U.S. troops from that war ask to suffer from the symptoms and the illness? Did some of these veterans ask to be exposed to toxic nerve gas agents from demolished Iraqi depots, pesticides, insect repellents, experimental pyridostigmine bromide pills given to troops by the government as nerve agent pretreatment, as well as not to mention the dense smoke from hundreds of oil well fires? Did these veterans ask to travel across the highway of death, seeing the charred remains of dead bodies and demolished vehicles? From the 2000s into the 2020s, did Iraq and Afghanistan veterans from OEF and OIF ask to be exposed to open-air burn pits? Did they ask to be exposed to the fumes from burning plastic, medical waste, burning tires, batteries, human waste, jet fuel, and diesel fumes? Did they ask to be ordered to run around the base perimeter for physical training and to inhale these fumes on a regular basis? Did they ask to develop various types of cancers from this exposure, as well as severe respiratory diseases, chronic bronchitis, asthma, and other illnesses? Did they ask to be struck with these medical conditions in their 20s and 30s when they should have been leading healthy and normal lives? Did they ask to be exposed to 10,000 nanograms of heavy particulates in the air when the World Health Organization limit is 25? Did they ask for 78% of their disability claims to be denied from 2007 to 2020 when it came to burn pit exposures? Did they ask to keep fighting and wait for 2022 for the PACT Act legislation to actually recognize these medical conditions and the link to the burn pits? For many years and recently, did veterans ask to be given CMP exams where there were significant errors and inaccuracies in the reports? Did they ask for their conditions to be missed or undocumented? Did they ask for their secondary conditions to be completely ignored? Did they ask to be subjected to improperly conducted or incomplete exams? Did they ask to be ordered to report to multiple exams for the same condition where information was missing from previous exams? Did they ask to be sent to CMP exams where conditions at the facilities were unsafe and dirty, unhygienic, unsanitary? Did they ask for their claims to be adjudicated based on these insufficient or incorrect examinations? Did they ask for the government to spend $6.8 billion on these exams since 2017? If you haven't caught on already, the answers to all of these questions is no. Service members and veterans did not sign up for this type of treatment. We did sign up for the hazards of war, combat, non-combat stresses, occupational exposures, but not intentional exposures to chemicals, not being ignored when it comes to medical or psychiatric conditions, not being ignored for benefits, and not being kept in the dark for decades about how the service could impact our health. As I mentioned in the beginning, the contract that we signed goes both ways. We, as the service members, have a responsibility to uphold the Constitution, fight for the country, and keep our oath. But similarly, the government has a responsibility to keep us informed, take care of us as best as possible, to recognize ailments caused by military service when appropriate, and not to ignore patterns being noticed by veterans who served. It's as simple as that. Let me know your thoughts on this topic in the comments. As always, I want to hear from you guys. Do you have your own questions to add to this list? Do you have other topics you want me to dive into? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, you might like the episode I did on blast exposure and the impacts it has on veterans' brains. Click over here to check it out. Also, click over here to subscribe if you haven't already done so. As always, thanks for watching. Dr. Sharma signing off. See you next time.